Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Whatever time you may be listening to this. This is PK Unmiked because we are two pastors' kids and we have no idea what we're doing here. So that's where the unmiked part comes in as Josh is moving his papers around and you guys could all hear that. We're very professional here. But today, what we're talking about, so last week we used my story and how I went the unconventional route, where I was the party animal, dropped out of college, and then I finally found my passion, and from there, my life completely changed around through personal development, getting back into church, finding Christ. Today, we're talking to my brother who went the traditional route, where went to college. He was a Division I athlete you guys will hear about, played for Texas Tech when they beat California in the, was it Holiday Bowl?
Yeah, whooped on Aaron Rodgers and Sean Lynch and all those guys.
Yeah, there's even, if you Google Josh Rangel and Adrian Peterson, you can see him tackling Adrian Peterson as well. And then from college, he went to corporate America. And then from corporate America, we're going to find out what happened. But then he went his entrepreneur route. Now he has a growing team. It's pretty absolutely amazing. One of my inspirations. And then one thing I just found out. So if you guys, so we're PK's pastor kids, and our dad's a pastor. And I just found out today that my brother Josh knew he's as gullible as I did, kind of growing up. So our dad, a background, his family is extremely, they play everything on the safe side. They're very protective, which isn't a bad thing. So my dad inherited that. So I know growing up, I remember we couldn't climb trees, really do anything. Every time we leave the house, it's be careful. And so growing up, Josh had this big desire to play football, but he wouldn't let us play. So I know, so when I was younger, I knew Josh told our dad that he was praying about it for a week, maybe a month, I don't know. And it was really on his heart to play football. And then knowing our dad, he's a pastor, and if you tell him you pray for anything, it's got to come true. So that's how Josh got into football. But it ended up being the best thing because he got a full ride scholarship at Texas Tech, and you guys will hear all about that. So I'm really excited to talk about him. But first, it's New Year's. I believe this is our first podcast of the new year, maybe second, who knows.
Second, yes.
Yeah, second one. And we have excited, I'm really excited for the New Year's. I've had a lot of exciting things going on. But Josh, go ahead. Do you have some New Year's goals that you want to get out, pronounce to the universe?
Pronounce in the universe. You know, I've always been someone that's always set goals. And so I've set goals every year. I think the big thing this year, I put a lot of action and a game plan behind my goals. But I've been telling people, one thing I want to accomplish in 2018 is I want to fail greatly. What I mean by that is I really don't want to live my life with fear. So many times I think I want to accomplish this, but then fear keeps me from taking the action to do that. And so this year, as those things come up or the goals I have written down, I want to go after it with everything I have. And not look at it as failure, because it's never just failure, but look at a lot of growth opportunities on the way of hitting that goal. So fail greatly in 2018. That's my overriding theme.
I love it. I also hear another phrase a lot of people use is failing forward.
It's a good one.
Fail to victory. I don't know if that one. I just made
What
that.
about you? You got any goals?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned last week, I have my fitness career that's taken off and I'm doing the online thing. But most recently is I'm trying to get into the scene as a professional speaker, more of a life coach, even train businesses on their own personal development. So I just went kind of full force in. Again, like you said, did my best, put my fears to the side. And it's pretty exciting. Within the first week, I have my first speaking engagement. I started 2 mastermind groups that I was absolutely terrified for. But the first one went amazing. I have my next one tomorrow. It's an online one, so that'll be interesting. And then, yeah, I'm just taking every opportunity and looking for the next one and growing upon each one. So
Yeah,
And
it's
they're
been
like,
cool sitting out here in Texas and watching you take those steps, and then each week, like you just telling me how this is starting to come out because of you taking that risk, and I think it's just cool. It's a cool lesson to learn, and see where you're going
yeah,
to be in January of 2019, like where it all leads.
right.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
the best thing, latest thing I read about that is you have to, of course, you have to be prepared. So the you don't, I don't know what I'm saying. So just be prepared for whatever and take the opportunity that's in front of you. Because a lot of people, they think the opportunity they want is the end result, but one opportunity always leads to the next opportunity. So it's
Yeah,
just getting started in whatever you want to do.
yeah, it's good.
All
It's
right.
good.
All right. So let's get back to you. So your name is Josh. You're the
Spelled
oldest.
Joshua. It's
Nice.
actually Joshua.
Oh yeah. So we all have being PKs. All of our names are from the Bible. We have Joshua, Caleb, and Luke. Luke is the doctor, so he's always the smartest one.
Joshua is the
And
leader and the strength and fights battles.
I got me there. So he's the oldest brother. So I'm excited to hear his take on being the oldest brother, being the firstborn. I remember growing up when people always talked about us as our brothers. I'm like, oh yeah, Josh, he's doing this. He's like when you got me into Herbalife, I always told people like I joined because Josh has always been the smarter brother, so I know he's not doing something stupid. I was like, and then yeah, and then you always kind of went the more godly route than I'd say both of us other brothers did. So it's I'm excited to hear. So let's just go ahead start off. Well, kind of growing up elementary. I know you said last week you went through about 6 different schools.
Yeah, it's funny because like our perspective and I mean, you were in the same school district from basically kindergarten all the way through high school, and I was in same school for kindergarten, first grade, and then I was in a different school for second grade and third grade, and then fourth and fifth grade I was in a private school, and in sixth grade I was in a different private school, and it wasn't until seventh grade where I was from seventh grade all the way through graduating of high school. I was in the same school district, and it was just interesting because I don't know what it was like to be. You said you had friends from like day one that you're still friends with today, and I'm like, I had to make friends every 2 years because I was constantly moving. And so, but I think that, I mean, that's all, I don't know. So like I have parents today, they're like, hey, I don't know, my kids are moving. I don't want to pull them out of the school district. I don't know if I should do that. And I'm thinking internally, like, do it. Like it was one of the best growth things that I think I went through because I was forced to make friends. I was forced to understand a lot of different personalities. Each of the school districts were like in a different part of the city. So there were just different types of people, right? Ethnic backgrounds and things of that nature. And yeah, so I was in different schools all the way through junior high.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we had did you notice a difference? When did you start public school?
Kindergarten. That
In
was
kindergarten?
asking. Yeah, so it was a public school in kindergarten, first grade. So I didn't go to private school till fourth grade.
Oh, okay. Did you notice a big difference then switching from public to private?
Yeah, it's funny. So like I tell people, so okay, so I think I remember being in third grade and they had a specialist. So third grade public school system. I was in, I would say it was a lower income type of school. I was working with a lot of people whose families moved from Mexico and whatnot. But they brought somebody in. So first off, they moved me to an upper grade reading program. And then they brought this expert in. And I remember sitting, they're like, hey, Josh, you need to come to the office. So I go to the office. I'm sitting in front of on this desk, this big desk. On the other side was this doctor. And the doctor in front of him had all these different types of puzzles and games. And so they're like, all right, I want to see if you can figure these things out. And I'm sitting on this other side looking at this doctor. And I couldn't put any of these puzzles together. Like I had no desire to put them together. I didn't care. And I guess I failed the test, but I found out that this doctor was because they thought I was smarter than everybody else. And the truth matter was I just spoke better English, right? In a politically correct way of saying that. And so then when I went to private school, it was like I was a step behind everybody. It was nuts. Like they were learning things that I hadn't even started learning yet, right? So they might have been like in the more advanced math program when I was just learning how to do the simple basic stuff. And so for fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, I was playing catch up with all these kids who've been in private school all their life. And then when I went back to the public school system in seventh grade, I like coasted because it was like, you guys are just learning this. I learned this 2 years ago. And so it's pretty incredible to see like the difference between the public and private school districts. And I know there's a lot of things that play into factor on that, but yeah, it's made me really think from my experiences, like, how do I want to raise my kids? Like, where do I want them? And I know there's great teachers everywhere, so don't hear me wrong on that, but there was definitely a difference in that.
Yeah, so kind of where you're going there is my next question, mainly just probably for me with my 1-year-old, and I'm gonna have to think about schools soon. What do you plan on doing if money wasn't an option at all? Would you prefer public over or private over public, or?
Man, that's a question. I think I just got done. I read a book when I still have 2 older boys. One's 5, so one just started in the public school system, kindergarten. Great teacher, great. I love everything about the school. But I read a book called Raising Boys, and in this book, it talks about the best option is actually homeschooling. There's a lot of great homeschool options out there. My wife was a homeschooled, and which is funny is because I always made fun of her. Like I was like, "Yeah, you're homeschooled, right?" But the truth matters, she's extremely smart, and all her sisters are extremely smart. And so then private school, but then I think about athletics, right? So all private schools have the same type of programs. Are they exposed to the talent level that public schools? I would rather raise my kid in a public school system in the sense of he's around a lot more people, and it allows me to teach him to be open to more people and different types of backgrounds and things of that nature versus getting into a private school district where it seems to be higher level incomes, but then getting into the private schools, higher level incomes usually means higher level of thinking. And so now they're exposed and you become the average of 5 people. So I have like all these thoughts as a dad, right, coming into my life. And really what it comes down to is just, it's something I pray about pretty consistently. Like, hey, give us the wisdom and discernment on what we want to do with our children when that time comes. And I say all those thoughts, not like I worry about it by any means, because there's a lot of people that are successful that come from all different types of school backgrounds. So that's my short answer to your question.
Well, thank you for not answering my question one bit.
I'm a thinker, so that's one thing. Like my wife gets mad at me all the time. She's like, "You're overthinking this way too much." And I wasn't overthinking it. I was just thinking. That's all I do.
That's funny. So what kind of kid were you, I'd say elementary? Because I mean, I was 6 years younger. So by the time I even had thoughts in my brain, you're pretty much probably already in junior high. So what kind of, I mean, were you just like me, like, as you know, I was super shy and didn't really do much outside of the box, but how are you?
I don't know. That's a weird thing about you. I was obviously switching schools. I never had a problem making friends. I seemed to be always making friends right away. And a lot of it was based around just my athletic performance, right? And so you can go to a new school and I can pick up a basketball and start playing with the kids. And next thing you know, you get the school cred, right? This kid plays basketball or flag football or soccer, whatever sport it was. I was always I was blessed in that area. And so it was always allowed me to make friends quickly. But then I also remember like when we moved and I was in junior high, I had no problem going to the local park and picking up a basketball and playing and making friends that way. And so, and naturally, I've always was a good kid too. Like I always wanted to respect people. I didn't like seeing other people get bullied. So I remember times like sticking up for other kids and that were getting
Like
bullied
me?
or picked on. Yeah. But like, I just, that's a part of my heart that I don't understand why that happens, but I do understand why it happens, and so if I can make a little difference and help somebody else out that's not as privileged or as gifted, right? So I guess that's something I also always understood was I had gifts that were given to me. It was kind of like my responsibility to use those gifts for a bigger cause. So I was always a friendly kid. I was always a kid looking out for others. I'm always trying to make friends that didn't care who you were. So
Cool.
I was a good student.
And then junior high, when did you start kind of playing I mean, you started off playing, or you played soccer when you were
Well, baseball, I started playing
younger.
baseball when I was 4 or 5, and that's always been like the first love I had. And so I remember playing baseball, and in fact, we have a home video somewhere where it was my first year playing baseball, and I was the only one on the field that understood how to get 3 outs and what you're supposed to do with the ball when it was hit to you, and understand baseball situations. And so I played that since I was 4 or 5, and I got into soccer a little bit. Enjoyed that game. But yeah, it was baseball, soccer, primarily all the way through junior high. I played flag football at the private school. So when I got to private schools, that exposed me to the football, and I was allowed to play flag football. Played quarterback and defense on there, and that was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. Always enjoyed watching the game of football. Um, so yeah, sports has always been a big part of my life.
Yeah, I remember. So kind of we'll move into high school, but I just remember you were big in sports. You're kind of the guy in high school, at least from a younger brother's point of view. But I just remember watching this one basketball. Like I don't remember you ever playing basketball except for this one game. But I just remember you guys I think you were down, and then you were just draining threes like nothing. And it was like coming down to the final moments, and like I just remember hearing the coach yell at his players like, pass it to Josh, pass it to Josh. And then I think you might even, I don't know if you won the game or not, but you guys ended up winning. It's like,
That's funny. I played basketball. So the only year I played organized basketball, like actually on a team, was my freshman year. I actually played at private school too, but like my freshman year in high school. And yeah, I love playing basketball. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun game to me. And remember why I never continued playing basketball was because um, the coach brought up someone else to varsity, and someone else on the team got the most valuable player award. And I was just like, well, screw that, dude. So I don't know if that was like pride or it was just like, I don't know, politics. And I was like, I've never been a big fan of politics in general. Like you're just going to give someone because you like them more or because you think you're going to keep their feelings from being hurt. Like I was
or
just never a fan like that.
their parents
Yeah.
complain the
Yeah.
most.
And so how
and
funny.
then football was your first year of football, freshman year.
Yeah, that's where I think where a lot of my story
Tackle.
starts to come into play. So as you mentioned earlier on the call, I wasn't allowed to play tackle football. In fact, I remember having conversations with my dad when I got to high school. Was like, hey, look, if you want baseball to be your career, then you need to focus all your energy and effort into it. And at that time, I wanted to play baseball long term, but also wanted to play football. It was just something that was on my heart. And they started 2-a-day practices for the freshman high school team. And walked in. I remember in the kitchen dining room table, and I went to my dad after the first week and said, "Hey, I've been praying about something, and I just wanted to have a conversation with you." He's like, "So you really been praying?" Well, yeah. And I go, I think I should be playing football." And he's like, "Well, if you've been praying about it, let's do it." And so then he drove me out to the fields where they were practicing. It was the first week of practice, and next thing you know, I was the starting quarterback right away on the team and things of that nature. And I kind of like, it's funny how my football career got started on, I don't want to say I lied because I thought about it. I can't remember. I wasn't say I was like seriously praying about it, but that's how it all started. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that where you guys, I think dad walking in and he's like, well, I guess Josh is starting quarterback. I was like, what? I was like, you were gone for like an hour. It's probably longer than that, but and then yeah, so throughout all high school you played football. You were the starting quarterback, and then you're also the starting safety, weren't you? Or did you just kind of rotate in at safety every now and then?
No, so yeah, freshman year I went both ways. I played safety and quarterback, and then my sophomore year I was moved to varsity and started at safety right away. So I was actually safety for sophomore and junior year in high school, and then my senior year I ended up going playing quarterback and safety again. And so and then yeah, so I went both ways my freshman and senior year.
And then your senior year as starting quarterback, you guys, it's like the first time our school won CIF and
Yeah, that
I
was
don't
like,
know how long.
yeah, I think, I don't know. We won in 98, and I think it was 85 or something was the last time our school took a championship. And that was just a fun year. Like, I'm still really close friends with some of those guys on the team, and you just build a special bond through sports. And yeah, it was fun.
And then, so then other than playing sports, did anything else kind of happen in high school that you change it? You feel like you changed that all from your elementary, junior high years? Did
I don't know if I changed. I did know. So, like, going in my senior year, right? It was this whole thing where my sophomore and junior year I was being recognized for different awards and stuff as a safety, and then my senior year I became quarterback and played safety, and we ended up having this run all the way through the championship. But that whole senior year is like when my heart started like, there's so much more to this. And so while people were praising us for like our accomplishments and saying, hey, Josh, you're this or that, that really never, I mean, it meant something, but it wasn't like I lived on that. Like, I started realizing, hey, look, there's, again, going back to what I kind of mentioned earlier, I was giving something, and there has to be more to life than championships, and there has to be more to life than all these awards. And I have these random people coming up to me and knowing who I am, and I don't know who they are. And I just felt like there was a higher calling or a higher purpose to life than just championships. And so my senior year, I started going to a different church than where our dad was pastoring at. And a big part of that was it was a local church near a high school. I was able to go with other students from my campus, invite other people to church, but also it was like where I really started like seeking to know who God was at a deeper level. You know, um, I think growing up as a pastor's kid, it was really easy for me. And here's something I'm growing through still, but it's really easy to know all the answers. Hey, Josh, what's a Bible verse for this? And I could just cite it out, right? What's the answer to this? And I'm able to give the pastor's kid Bible answer. But because I was so good at that, I was able to like hide things behind the scenes, right? I was able to mask things really easy. And so my senior year, I knew God wanted more from me. So I started going to this different church, and it really started opening up my heart even more so to take the relationship from my head to my heart in a deeper level. And so I think that's when the change really started to happen and God really started grabbing my heart. Now, I gave my life to Christ in 4th or 5th grade, right? And so, and he's someone I always wanted to follow, but that's my senior year is like when it became like stop from being this God in the sky to actually, hey, he wants a relationship and like what that meant. And so, yeah, so there were some changes my senior year going through that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was so jealous of you because, I mean, of course, we couldn't drive at all. So here you are driving 5 minutes to church, go home whenever you want. And then I have to go to church at 8 a.m. And then sometimes we're not home till like 6 p.m. because both our parents are there. Um, but no, exactly what you said is just the relation, and which is what I just realized probably in the last 2 years. So luckily you found it at 18. I found it at 28. But
Well,
yeah, just finding the relationship with Christ, and that's, I don't know.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I say that's like when he started grabbing my heart, but then it was this process, right? And so I don't know where you're going with the questions. It's kind of fun just waiting for you to ask questions. But like when I got to Texas Tech, one of the first guys I met was a gentleman by the name of Peter Avery. And he was the first kid my age that I saw living out the gospel. And then he introduced me to a guy named Philip Goff, who started taking his time and discipling me and actually sitting down with me and at breakfast and coffee and really showing me how to interpret and read scriptures. And then that brought me to, at the same time, a coaching switch happened. Dave Brown, who was huge in my life. He was a defensive back coach for my position, played for the Seattle Seahawks, and just a stud of NFL football player. But he lived his life for a passion for people to know Christ. And so then all of a sudden, all these worlds started to collide where I was told, or I believed that as a believer, you have to be this meek, soft person. And Coach Brown was like, look, Josh, he created you to be a football player, and it's your job to hit that guy as hard as you possibly can so you can drop the ball. That's who you created to be. And I was like, man, you know what? God's created us all in these different roles. And I think he's created me. And he started really developing and shaping me as a person through those three people, Peter Abregg, Philip Goff, Dave Brown. And then we started an athlete Bible study. And it was just one thing. So it's just been this journey. And then probably going a little forward, we can go backwards. But then I think about just my spiritual walk, right? So then I graduate. I'm part of this organization called the Navigators, which is phenomenal. I go back to Texas Tech to work with freshman students and help them like adjust to college life. But then I go to corporate America. And I go to corporate America, and all of a sudden it was like people chasing the corporate ladder, the money, the next big deal. And I get caught up in that. And it was that process that kind of led me to other people in my job. And we started going to Bible study again. And then through marriage, like God's used our marriage like tremendously for good and bad to like, hey, look, dude, you're not all who you think you be, and you need me more than you ever need now, right? And so, and here I am at 36 years old, and he's still shaping and molding me. And I hope when I'm 46, it's still the same process where I look back to this point right now and think, man, this is what I was going through, and this is what God is doing. Because now at 46, this is where he wants me because of those. And so it's just a process. And I think I'm to a point where I understand that.
Yeah. So then let's just go ahead. Let's go back. Let's go to, so graduate high school. We're going to college. You start off at Mount Sac, putting all your efforts into baseball. I guess before that, did you have a career path that you wanted to go to going out of high school? Or was it also?
Yes. Man, it's funny. So after we won the championship, me and I'm a big man, I love this guy. We were supposed to be like the next big things at Charter Oak in baseball. He played shortstop, I played third base, and we would talk before the year how many home runs we're going to hit, this and that. And my goal was to get drafted and not go to school. Like I was done with school. I didn't want nothing to do with school. I just wanted to play baseball. My senior year, I couldn't throw a baseball across the diamond. Like I couldn't hit a first baseman, whatever it was. I hit pretty good. Didn't hit as many. Like I hit one home run, right? After thinking I'm going to hit like 10 to 15. And it just wasn't the year I planned to. I ended up hurting my shoulder. So like part of the problem was every time I threw a ball, like a sharp pain would go down my arm. And I tried to play through it. And so after my senior year, obviously I had coaches talking to me about football, come play here, come play there. But the baseball coach at Mount Sac, he was well known in the baseball world. He said, come play with me. I'll rehab you. We'll get your shoulder well. And we'll get you out where you want to go. So I went and started playing spring ball, but my shoulder never got better. And they said, you're going to have surgery or you're done playing. And at that point I was like, I'm not going to be 18 years old and starting my baseball career with surgeries already. So I had two of my best friends, Dustin and Graham, who were playing. They're starting their second year of junior college football. And so I said, I'm going to go out there and have fun with them and just play. Let's see what happens. I wasn't even thinking about a scholarship. I was really just thinking, let's go play football, get a job or whatnot. And so I ended up going out and had the offense coordinator saying, hey, play quarterback. And the defense coordinator said, play safety. Where I wanted to go where all the glory was at. So I went to play quarterback. And they had the returning quarterback at that point. And so at that point, I was like, I don't want to sit the bench. I came out here to have fun. So I went and talked to the defense coordinator a couple of weeks before the first game, ended up getting the safety role and just having a good year where I tell people quarterbacks threw me the ball more than they did their own team, and fumbles fell into my lap, and ended up getting a scholarship after a year. And so it all worked out again, how you just see this, my will versus his will, my path versus his path, and his path always tends to win in a good way. So
Yeah, so you played 1 year at Mount Sac, and then Texas Tech started talking to you about a full ride scholarship to play out there.
Yeah. So what happened was during that year at junior college, school started recruiting me. So I did something called gray shirt when I was playing baseball, which means I don't really start my eligibility. And so when I went to play junior college football, I had 4 years to play plus a red shirt. So I played my first year. And so after that first year, I become really attractive because I have 3 years of eligibility plus my red shirt. So which means schools could get a junior college transfer with a little more experience and maturity, still have a red shirt year, and be ready to play off the bat if they wanted to and have 3 years. And so, I remember sitting down talking with the Nebraska coaches and Oregon State coaches and Oregon coaches. And then Texas Tech offered me a trip. I went out there and um, fell in love with the culture out there. And Coach Leach offered me a scholarship on the spot, and I accepted. And I think part of it, there's a lot of reasons why I accepted that. And I don't know if you're gonna get into that later, but yeah. And there I was in Lubbock, Texas. Went from the beach of Southern California to the cotton dirt fields of Lubbock, Texas.
So then during college, you say you're part of the Navigators. You started, when did you start as a safety? Was it your senior year or did you start as a junior?
No, so I get to Lubbock and we're doing some summer workouts, and I end up doing some 7-on-7 and end up laying on my leg and chipping my pelvis. Well, at the first, I thought it was just a growing issue. And I was like, no, it's more painful. Long story short, I redshirted that first year. And then I started spring ball that following year, and it still wasn't better. That's when they did a little more, just looking into it different ways, and found out I chipped my pelvis. And so I had to have surgery. So that took me out spring ball into the following year, where I was able to recover, and then got onto different like special teams and different defensive packages. And then from there, junior year, played on more defensive packages, special teams, and I started my senior year. So.
And then I just remember you always, might be a little off, but I just remember you always asking me, like, do we look as good as UCLA and all those teams? Do you feel like I don't know. I know a lot of individuals, myself included at times, is we always, I don't know, maybe think less of ourselves, or always have this negative talk in our mind. Did you feel like you struggled with it at that time?
Yeah, it was weird. Like, I had all this confidence playing sports, and then I got the scholarship at Texas Tech, and then had the surgery. But even like when I was offered the scholarship, it was like something you dream about. Like, I remember watching Texas A&M play and how large their stadium was, or going to USC games and thinking how big and athletic and skillful those guys were. So when I got the scholarship, it was like, yeah, I'll take it, because I didn't want them to take it away. And so then I got to Tech, and I was playing with guys who were just unbelievable athletes, and just like comparing myself all the time, right? Whether I was good as them or not, I was like, these guys are unbelievable. How am I on the same field as them? And so I always wondered, like, do we look like the vision I had as a child watching games? Do we look like that on the field today? And it's funny because my sons are old enough where they watch old game film, and I watch them like, man, we were a real college football team. But I think I lacked some confidence that I didn't know that I was lacking. And even so, like after my senior year, like I didn't try to do anything else, not because I didn't want to, but just because I was like, I'm not as good as them, so I'm not going to try. When there was other safeties at other schools that played a couple of years in the NFL on special teams and defensive packages that had better stats than. And so that was a big what if in my life for a really long time. So.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going with it, because I remember you mentioning that, like, looking at NFL games and seeing the players on the field, and you're like, man, they were terrible when I played against them. Or maybe you didn't use those words, but you're like, if they were there, I could have been there. And I think just so often we always do that to ourselves, is, like you said, we compare ourselves, which it's not good if we compare ourselves to people better than us, and it's not good if we compare ourselves to people lower than us. It's just a no-win situation. So do you feel like I don't know about now, but at any time in your life, did you have a little bit of regret of not even trying for the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, there was even like 3 or 4 years afterwards, I thought about like, I'm going to start working out and try to make this thing happen. But it was all a growing lesson. So, I mean, I not now sitting here, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't go that route, right? There was a different purpose, but I saw that what if play out in a lot of different areas, like my marriage, right? I had an expectation of marriage when I got into it, what I'm supposed to be as a husband, or what it's supposed to look like. And maybe I lacked the confidence that it took to be the husband or the man at the time, or as in the business world, right? I was moving up in the business world and I was like, am I really like, I'm 24 years old. Am I supposed to be doing this with these companies that have been around for all these years? So there's always been this like inner lack of confidence from just in general, and something that I had to work through. And so, yeah, that plays out in all different areas.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not alone. I'm sure people could relate to this a lot. I mean, even me starting my speaking thing, I mean, when I speak, like people tell me how good I am, but in my mind, I think I'm terrible. And of course, we always think of the people we see on TV and things like that. And we just have to remember they've been doing it for 20 years already. And
Well, I find when I work with my clients too, I tell them to take before pictures because how strong is our power? How powerful is our mind? Where even myself, I still see myself as this overweight ex-athlete, and I feel like I'm small, right? I don't feel like I have any size. And all of a sudden, someone takes a picture of me standing next to my team or other guys who I feel are bigger than me, and then I'm like engulfing them, right? As far as just size, and so our mental capacity and what we believe about ourselves is powerful.
well, it sounds like you just need to stop looking at my pictures online and get a little more confident.
That's a
Understand?
good point.
So we'll move on. So you graduate, you got a degree in communication at a Texas Tech, right?
Yeah, I was. So when I transferred in from the junior college, the NCAA has a rule. I don't know if it's still in effect. It was there where you had to have so much of your degree completed, so you're eligible to play, right? And so I actually transferred in as a sophomore, but I didn't take sophomore credit hours up to this point. So the one degree that I was eligible for right off the bat was public relations. So I got into the public relations journalism major and then a minor in marketing.
Cool. So then that moved you into the corporate world. We'll kind of tie in these last parts with Bess, your wife. You met Bess when did you start dating? In college or after college?
We started dating in college, my senior year. So we were leading an athlete Bible study. And that last semester or the last year, we opened it up to be co-ed because a lot of the guys that we were in our study started dating girls, right? And so she came with one of her good friends. They were in the nursing program together, and her good friend they were dating or engaged to a good friend of ours. And so we met through the study.
All right. And then so corporate America was what were you doing? I don't even know what you were doing. It's always confusing to me.
Good prep work, dude. No, so I got into so we got married and then we stayed in Lubbock because she was finishing up school and got a job there as a nurse. And we were trying to determine if we're going to Dallas. So my first job was when we moved to San Diego. Well, I was selling gym memberships out of a local gym there, and then when we moved to San Diego, I got into corporate America. It was a company that did staffing and recruiting, and I was in the professional services. So I was helping businesses find the right people for their accounting and finance departments, their call centers, receptionists. So I was working with a lot of different people and a lot of different roles and jobs, and really enjoyed it in San Diego. It was a fun company to work for. And it's just a good example of like leadership. Like I love studying leadership. And when I was in San Diego, the leadership there was strong. Still love following my boss that was there at the time. He would walk in, shake everybody's hands, seemed to have a good relationship with a lot of people. And then I transferred back out to Dallas and the leadership was run completely different. And just wasn't a very welcoming. It was one of those things where you walk into the office and the boss's door is shut, you know it's going to be a bad day because he's probably getting chewed out. And the numbers aren't as good. And you come in, the door's open. It's like, oh, it's going to be a good day. He's in a good mood today. And it just wasn't, it was just a different feel to it. And so
That's interesting. So do you think if you stayed in San Diego longer than you did, you think you might still be in corporate?
yeah, it's funny. I think I loved the whole thing in San Diego. So none of it was the beach and the mounds and whatnot, but it was a different led office, and the people there, it was just a different. The leaders of that office were older as well, and so you just get a different. And then when I stayed in Dallas, the leaders were my age of running this whole region, so it was not that they weren't good leaders. It's just they weren't very experienced leaders, and they were learning their leadership experience from a different perspective of leadership, more of hammer and nail than relationship driven. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It's always interesting to think about that. Possibly.
Yeah. And then from what I remember, your first kind of entrepreneur thing, you were doing like a credit card service.
So yeah, I
Was
had
that
two
your,
good. I
sorry.
had two. Yeah, it was a friend of mine. So I had two good friends um, at the office here in Dallas, and one of them started their own business for a year or two, and I joined them, and we ended up at first working in Indian country, like different tribes, and we were working with one company specifically that did a lot of. They had a software that worked in casinos for these Indian tribe casinos and whatnot. And that was a lot of fun. We were doing like the marketing and sales for them. And then we kind of branched off and got into credit card processing. And it was just a awful experience. There's no regulations. No one believes you. I didn't like it. It's not the kind of sales I enjoyed. And I got to a point where he wanted to go a different direction. And it just wasn't for me. And so that's how I kind of fell into what I'm doing now.
Were you, before getting that, were you still with your corporate job while you were doing this?
No, so they were doing really well with what they were doing. So I joined their company. They were in business 2 or 3 years and were able to pay me a salary. So I jumped on board with them. And then I started my entrepreneurship right as that job was ending. So I walked into this nutrition club. They said, try these shakes. I said no for 6 months, even though I was fat, overweight, had no energy. Finally got on a program, lost quite a bit of weight pretty quickly. And people started asking me, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. And so I started sharing with them what I was doing. And then it turned into some cash in the mail. Next thing you know, we were transforming people in the community. And that was the most rewarding thing um, that I've ever experienced. And so from there, it turned into a nutrition club. Now we have 5 nutrition clubs and looking to expand again this year. It's just been an amazing journey in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I want to kind of talk about the results a bit. So hopefully, if any of my clients are listening, they could hear this. So your story, I mean, you were fat. You had about 30 pounds to lose. As your wife was pregnant with your first son, you gained the weight with her, like most dads do. And then I remember you talking about doing a half marathon to lose this weight. So what did you do? You ran for about 6 months straight, you'd say?
Yeah, so I was at 230 pounds when I started training this half marathon. It was to lose weight. I thought, well, if I start running, I might as well lose the weight, right? Because I was a guy that would go to like meetings and I would get there early, pull up underneath a tree and take a nap. And I was just tired. I had no energy. And so I decided to do this half marathon. I'm always competitive. And so I didn't sign up for like the easy half marathon training program. Like we were doing 800 yard sprints, track workouts. I mean, all of it leading up to this. And I ended up running a sub 2 hour half marathon at 228 pounds. So I lost 2 pounds during this whole training and thinking, God, that was miserable. Yeah, so then that's when they finally convinced me after, so, hey, you need to start focusing on your nutrition. That's 80% of what you want. And so I finally bought into that and everything else changed out of it.
Yeah, so for 6 months straight of working out, you lost 2 pounds. And then you start on these shakes, which is Herbalife, and then you lost 30 pounds in what, 6 weeks?
I lost 27 pounds in 6 weeks. Disclaimer, the average weight loss can be 0.5 to 1 pound per week. It's based on hard work and dedication and sticking to a program. But yeah, it was simply amazing and never felt better. I had more energy. And, I had a big why behind it though, too, at the same time. The reason I was trying to lose weight, my wife was pregnant. We just had our first child. And I remember our dad being in the hospital when I was 5 years old. And I didn't want to do that to my kid. And so I want to do everything possible to keep that from happening and do the things I could control, And so it was a big motivation factor behind it.
Yeah, so you lose the weight and this kind of jumpstarts your business. And this is kind of the part where that got me into the business as well, and I always was like, my brother was in this great corporate job making around, I don't know if it was true, but I was like, just making around 80,000 plus commission. And then now he quit and he's doing this thing, and he's always been the smarter brother, so I had to trust him type of thing. So now you're kind of a true entrepreneur. There's no plan B. If you don't make it work, your family's going to be living on the streets or at least extremely struggling with one kid, another kid on the way. Now you have 3 kids. So kind of talk about the entrepreneur.
Yeah. So one thing when I was working for staff and recruiting, they were really big on was personal development. So I started reading a lot of Jim Rohn books. I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just some other like personal development business books. And a lot of them talked about like starting your own business. And many of them started like, hey, if I could do it over, it'd be in direct sales. And so it really got my interest looking into different things. And so I also realized at the time, like fatherhood is really important to me. And spending time with my kids and investing into my kids. And as I watched and I worked with all these different businesses around the Dallas Metroplex in my staff and recruiting firm, and as well as my company, it seemed like people were sacrificing time with their family to move up the corporate ladder to make more and more money, which to me didn't make no sense to have all this money and then possibly lose your family and have no investment into your kids over all those years. So I was willing to give up money for time with my kids. And as I studied and looked at it, I said there had to be a way to not sacrifice time with your kids and yet build a business. And when I found out when I lost my weight and people were asking me, what are you doing? And it naturally turned into one thing. I was like, this is awesome. I can do it from home. I can do it from, we do it from our nutrition clubs. We do it through fit camps. And it was just a remarkable opportunity. Now, one thing I did, I don't recommend is like, I was a point in my life where I knew there had to be more. I was desperate. And so I ended up quitting my full-time job after 1 month doing what I was doing part-time. And there was definitely a lot of prayer in that, but kind of what I talked earlier about, my goal for 2018 is to fail bigger than I've ever failed in my life, is I took a big risk and I jumped in with both feet and put my back against the wall. When my back was against the wall, I had to scrape and claw and climb. And it was just an incredible year. And so now here we are 5 years later, and we still have a lot of work to do. Like, it's funny how your goals and your vision and your purpose just kind of changes as you go, as time happens. So.
Yeah, so it's just, so now you have this big team. You're definitely growing and growing. So one thing I always see you post is how it's great you get to pick up your kids from school. You get to drop them off when you want, some extra time. Was it hard for you in the beginning managing that family time, or?
It still is hard. Like, there's no such thing as balance, right? If you're going to focus on one area more than another, you're going to have to sacrifice another area, right? So if you want to start getting healthy and you want to start eating healthy, like you want to start losing weight or whatnot, right? You have to start eating healthy and you have to get some exercise in, right? Well, in order to do that, you may have to sacrifice your favorite TV show during the week because that's the only time you go to the gym. So for everything you want, there's a sacrifice somewhere. And so maybe, so the balance was this, right? As guys and people that want to provide for families, we want to move really fast. And so it's always been this move fast, move fast, move fast. Oh man, my family's back here. Let's come back to the family and business slows down. So it's this constant pull of like, where do you want it? And now I think this really comes down to like learning how to structure your days and learning just open communication. It's still by far nowhere perfect where I pursue it, but I do have the opportunity to choose when I want to work, right? So like, I'm not going to sacrifice a couple times a week. I pick up my kids and I take them to school, right? I'm up in the morning feeding them. Those are things I don't want to sacrifice. And so one thing I've started recently, since we have 3 kids, is I've been getting up at 4:15 in the morning to go work out, and been able to build a little tiny garage gym. And before 6:30, any of them wake up. If they wait that long to get out of bed, I've knocked out quite a few things. And so I'm willing to get up a little bit earlier and sacrifice sleep and stay up a little bit later to sacrifice sleep to have that time with my kids. And that's one thing I think um, I make clear, because I think some people think, your time with all your kids, do you not work? I'm like, I work hard. Like, I lead evening fit camps, and I'm gone in the evenings a lot because a lot of the people we work with do this business very part-time. But at the same time, I'm there when my kid gets home from school to talk about their day. So everything you do, and if it means enough to you, you're going to sacrifice somewhere. And it comes back down to what Jim Rome talks about, right? What's your philosophy? And so part of my philosophy is not to neglect my kids and time with my family in order to work 60 to 70-hour weeks during the day where I don't get to see them.
Right. Yeah. It all kind of comes down to, if you're doing something for your family, don't forget about your family.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people go, is they're trying to make all this money for their family, but they're not spending time with their family. So it's, yeah.
I find it interesting, like, just because I've been in, like, my job allowed me to work with a lot of different people at all different levels and help them find jobs. And then even in our nutrition clubs, we have people come in all the time. And like, there's just this common theme of like, yeah, we make great money, but he or she is never around because they're too busy working. But I guess that's what they have to do to provide for the family. But then you work with these kids who are struggling, right? They don't know who they are. And it's because, like, they didn't have a dad to show them how to be a young man, right? Or they didn't have a mom around because, and there's people, there's success stories and negative stories on all sides of it. And there's people, right? There's always the people that come out very successful out of those situations and those who don't. But I just knew, again, like, hey, my kids are only going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 one time. And I want to be there present for them, however that looks. So,
right. So before we close up today, so you've been married for 11 years.
Be 11 years. It'll be 11 years. Yeah.
So
you got me thinking now. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it'll be
kind
11
of
years.
In about 2 minutes, kind of go through that.
In 2 minutes, go through the marriage. Oh man, Beth's gonna see this. There's no way I can cover that in 2 minutes. Love you, babe.
maybe.
No, you know what? God's used that, like, and used her, like, tremendously in my life. Like, for a lot of times, I wanted to shift blame, and just like marriage, and one thing that God's pointing out to me right now is, like, we get to choose the actions we want to take, and those actions determine the results of, right? You make bad decisions, you get bad results. And so instead of shifting blame, taking 100% responsibility and trusting that I can't change her and she can't change me, but we can change ourselves. And man, marriage is, I read a book, I'm going to forget what it's called, but the whole premise was, what if God created marriage not for happiness, but for holiness? And that's been something that's really stuck with me from day one. And you know what, today's, so yeah, I don't know how you sum up marriage. She's awesome. She's a phenomenal woman. She's strong. She's beautiful, of course. Loves her family deeply. Big gift giver. Great mom. And so, yeah, it's. I'm very lucky that she has stuck with me these many years.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of subjects briefly, and maybe in the next few podcasts we'll kind of deep dive into a few of just the subjects. But in our final minutes here, so I know there's a lot of people out there, I think 80%, especially in America, are not happy with their jobs, and maybe they want to go into entrepreneurship, but yet they're a little bit scared. So what is your final advice to anybody? And then after, go ahead and tell us, where is your nutrition club? How could they find you? What's your contact information? Whatever you want to give.
Yeah, I would tell that person to follow their heart. I'm really big on that. Like, trust those gut feelings. If entrepreneurship and starting a business is on your heart, don't allow fear to stop you. There's definitely avenues and ways you can find any solution to any problem that's holding you back. Also, like, is it worth you to live your next 40 years of your life living in that what if that I did, right? What if I tried out for the NFL? What if I went to and try to get a free agency onto a team, right? I held on to that what if for many years. And so after God really worked on me on those what ifs, he really challenged me, like, don't live any more what ifs. Like, if you're failing at something, don't just walk away, because you're going to live with that what if you would have gave it a second shot. If that is your desire and it's on your heart, like, seek avenues, talk to people, um, find people in the industry you want to start a business in, and start getting information. Don't just sit there for 30 years thinking, what if I would have started 30 years ago? Like, don't be that person. It's what causes misery.
Yeah, that's good. And then, so where's your nutrition club at right now? If
So
they're
we
in the
have
area?
the one I currently work out is in Rockwall, Texas. It's called Rock Yaw Nutrition. The name was made up by my wife, and people absolutely love it. It was a great name.
Yeah, I actually really like that name too.
Yeah, Rock Yaw Nutrition, and we do like healthy meal replacement smoothies. We do meal planning. I do that online as well. We have 2 clubs in Wiley, Absolute Fitness and Wiley Nutrition, and then one in Mesquite called One Life Fitness. And then we actually opened up a club in Mexico. And so business has been really cool, because we really want to impact communities and impact people's lives. We understand that if someone loses 10 pounds or 15 pounds or 5 pounds, whatever it is, they have to become someone different, and they have to create new disciplines in their life, and they have to change their mindset. When those things start to change, the whole area of their life starts to change. And that's what we're going after.
That's awesome. So you say you do it online. What's your Instagram account?
Instagram is just Joshua D. Rangel. That's on Instagram. Follow me there. Come find me out. See what my
And
life's about.
is that the best place? Do you have a website at all?
No, just Instagram. I like
All right,
keeping it simple.
Joshua D. Rangel. You got it. So yeah, that is the summary of Josh Rangel. It was really good. I learned a lot about you.
It's
So
crazy.
next,
Like, when you sit there and ask questions, like, what thoughts go through your mind? You're like, golly, I can't wait to like dive into this podcast and interview different people and like start putting these pieces together, because I think we all have stories to share.
yeah, absolutely. So as we move forward, go ahead, look, the next few podcasts, I think we're going to dive in more deeply to maybe each category: family, maybe business, finances, could be religion, whatever it may be. But for those of you listening, if you know somebody who would be great for this type of podcast, feel free to mention them to us. We'd love to have them on. Just someone that you know could inspire others to either just become a better person or help them grow a business or whatever it may be. So thank you all for listening. These are just 2 pastors' kids with one mission, 2 stories. All right, go ahead. What's our end motto?
2 brothers, 2 paths, 1 mission. You can find us on PK Unmiked on YouTube. We'll put this up tomorrow. Also, if you want to listen to a podcast, go to itunes.com, leave a message for us. Love any feedback you guys have. This is something, as I mentioned, just jump like fell. We don't have any experience doing this, and we've been figuring it out as we go, and it's starting to come together piece by piece. And so last 2 weeks were just our stories, and we want you to know who we are before we move forward. And so thanks for listening. Peace.